Hi, it's Caitlin, and I'm here with a new collection from Cirque Colors, which when I opened my PR package, I'm not gonna lie, I was not excited about these polishes. And I also have some returning jellies in the form of nail art sets that came out maybe like 4 years ago. There was the tortoiseshell one, Shibori, and then I think there was an amethyst one, which didn't come back, but some of them did, and there's also a new blonde tortoiseshell kit, and I actually did nail art, and it was really easy and I think quite successful. So I'll have tutorials on that towards the end of the video. And as always, you can use my affiliate code, which is Caitlin Swatches, to save 10% on your order on cirquecolors.com. It is one-time use. If you've already used it, thank you so much. The collection is available now, and let's see what I actually think about the Atelier collection. Let's start off with the Atelier collection and Mother of Pearl. Mother of Pearl is, as you could see, a beautiful magnetic. This one is, it's so pretty. It's a ivory pearl polish with white/silver magnetic pigment, and I am using the trick where I put the magnet under my finger as I apply the coats. I think this one looks good in 2. You might want 3, and of course you should use a top coat like Cirque Colors Looking Glass. It's a great top coat. And this polish reminds me of one of my very first nail polishes that I picked myself as a kid. I think it was a CoverGirl Nail Slicks, and it was white frosty pearl, and I just thought I was it when I was wearing that polish. I thought it was so cool. And with the magnetic effect, this is kind of like revisiting that nail polish with a really interesting and beautiful finish. This polish is, I don't want to say it's bizarre, but it almost is, and it just looks really cool. So I don't know, it's like an interesting color combination, and I really like the magnetic effect. Next up we have Cosplay Lame, and this one is described as a warm toned brushed gold metallic shade. So this one, when I saw it in the bottle, I was not excited about it. But then when I put it on my nail, I was completely and very pleasantly surprised by it. It does not dry with brush strokes. They level out really nicely, and it's actually a really beautiful shade of gold. I thought it was going to be this like cheap, ugly looking gold, but I actually think it's really pretty. So you could see that it's totally opaque in 2 coats, and top coat will just help make it shinier and more beautiful. And here it is with the top coat. It's really pretty and honestly perfect for the holiday season. It's definitely a very yellow gold, and again, it's probably something you're either going to love or hate, but I was pleasantly surprised by it and ended up liking it a lot. Next up we have Twinkle Tweed, and Twinkle Tweed is a tweed inspired polish topper with multicolored holographic short slice glitters, but they do note that you can also apply it on its own if you want, and I just had to do this built up on its own because I really liked it, and it is a really interesting polish, and I feel like bar glitters like this are very controversial, but I'm here for it. And I will also note about the inspiration behind this collection. It was inspired by the multitude of fabrics and finishes that designers use to bring their creations to life. And They are really inspired by things like blue velvet, snakeskin, tweed, patent leather, and, you know, different things like the iconic Christian Louboutin red bottoms and drag race runways and all those sorts of things. So understanding the inspiration behind this collection just made me love it even more. So after you've watched me build this one up, you can see that you're not going to get like total opacity, but I think it's a super cool effect. I really like negative space bannies, so personally, this is how I would probably wear it, maybe in one less coat. And these little bars are super, super holographic, which I really appreciate. I like when brands use high quality ingredients, and these are really beautifully holographic glitters, and I really, really like them. It is also going to be a little bit difficult to remove, but not as difficult as circular or shaped glitters for whatever reason. Maybe they're just a lighter material, but it wasn't super difficult to remove them. But use a peel-off base coat if you hate removing glitters. And this one just sparkles so beautifully in the sun. I just barely had sun and they were still twinkling. Next up is Blue Velvet, which the minute I saw it, I started singing Blue Velvet by Lana Del Rey, and that turns out to be the inspiration behind this one, in addition to the actual fabric itself. And this one has a beautiful formula. So they recommend the velvet style magnetic effect, which is what I am doing with this polish. So essentially, as the polish is drying, you kind of just want to keep moving the magnet from side to side, top to bottom, around the edges, and it's going to create this beautiful, luxurious finish when you build it up in 2 coats. The polish itself is described as a navy blue velvet inspired shade with silver magnetic pigment. So once again, you can see that it turns into this really interesting blue jelly base when you start pulling the magnetic pigment around with the magnet itself. And it might not look great on that first coat, but trust me, when you build it up in 2, it looks absolutely phenomenal. This one really does look like velvet with the magnetic application that I'm showing you, and I love the shade of blue. I think it is so pretty, and it's just a stunning polish, and again, perfect for this time of year when you want something kind of cozy and rich and luxurious on your nails. This polish is it. And I love anything inspired by Lana Del Rey. I'm like one of her first fans, I think. No, not actually, but I think I discovered her music in 2011. The first time I heard Video Games, it was like my world changed, and I have been a fan of her since. She's so talented and the poet of her generation. I just love her. So anyway, this polish looks beautiful in my opinion in 2 coats. You might need it in 3 depending on how visible your free edge is. Everybody's different, but I was really happy with it in 2 coats. And here you can see that velvet effect, which is beyond gorgeous, very entertaining, and that's what I like in a polish. This one is just so classy and pretty. I love the silver magnetic particles. I love the base color. It's just got so much depth to it, and it's so beautiful. And now for something completely different, we have Serpentine. And this one is a deep reptilian green with orange to gold to green iridescent flakes. And I love how basically every polish in this collection is completely different. Those are my favorite kinds of collections. I've said it before, but I just love a mishmash of finishes and colors. It's very exciting to me. And this collection is perfect with holiday, festive kind of colors, but then totally unique finishes and a really interesting inspiration. This one builds up really nicely in 3 coats. In my opinion, 3 coats is better than 2. It just deepens everything up. And of course, you also get more flakes when you apply 3 coats. And this has a beautiful pond-like effect. It's very squishy and jelly. And the flakes in there are very shifty and beautiful, as you can probably already tell. It does dry down with a tiny bit of texture from the flakes, but 1 layer of Cirque looking glass top coat smoothed it out for me, and it won't be difficult to remove. I also did not experience any signs of staining while swatching this one. So here it is. It's just such a beautiful, rich shade and definitely very snaky and reptilian. So I really, really like that. It even has kind of blue at extreme angles, which I find really interesting. And this would be a really fun Christmas green to wear. Personally, I can picture myself pulling it out around Christmas time, and I love how just green and emerald and luxurious it is. And here we have Red Bottoms, which is the last one in the Atelier collection. This one is obviously the polish inspired by Christian Louboutin Red Bottoms, and it is a beautiful shade of red. This one is described as a CLB red bottom inspired holographic polish packed with a scattered holographic effect. This is another one that would be a beautiful Christmas red. I love the shade of red. It's not too pink, but it's not too mid-tone. I don't know how to describe it. It's just kind of cherry. I mean, I don't have Christian Louboutin heels with red bottoms, but if anyone does, do a comparison, please. I would love that to see how accurate it is. And this one I left in 2 coats because I was happy with the coverage, but I can foresee some people needing 3. I just ended up being happy with it in 2. Top coat is definitely a must-have with this one. You don't want a textured finish because those little holographic glitters are a bit textured, and it won't be overly difficult to remove. I wouldn't recommend a peel-off base with this one unless you really like peel-off bases, but it's not going to be that difficult to remove. And thankfully I had a bit of sun so you could see the hollow sparkles, which are very pretty. I love a scattered holographic effect, and this one is so twinkly. So now we're going to look at some nail art set with my interpretation. So first up, I'm going to be doing the Blonde Tortoiseshell look. So this includes NSFW jelly and also organza, and they claim you can just use these 2 polishes out of the bottle to get a blonde tortoiseshell look. So this is totally my interpretation of the trend. This is how I did it. Is it perfect? No, but we're here. Watch if you want or don't. So I'm starting off with random blobs of NSFW jelly on my nail as sort of the base for the little tortoiseshell bits. And then I'm going to let that dry down. That's important because you don't want things smudging, and that happened. So I'm going to show you that sad accident. And this is what I do to sort of go over where you already put the blobs down, but darken either the center or the edges and be random. That's an important lesson from this, is to just be random. Try not to be perfect, or you're going to end up just with very boring nail art. Random is good. And did this almost turn out like cow spots? Maybe. You can be the judge. I was okay with it. I was looking at a whole bunch of Blonde Tortoiseshell stuff on Instagram, and you know, I'm not the best at nail art, but I do think that these sets give you a pretty good effect, especially if you're not someone who wants to spend hours or use a whole bunch of different tools to get a look. So then I apply one coat of organza, and that just sort of sandwichifies it. And then I went back in with the NSFW. I'm adding it in some new areas and then on top of the existing blobs, just to add depth. Essentially, that's what you want with these manicures. You want layers of polish, and you want to create that depth that you would typically get from a gel polish, but I love that you can get this look with regular non-gel. If you wanted a more intensified look, you could keep going with the layers with organza and NSFW, but I do like a sheer delicate nail look, so I left it there and then applied top coat. As I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you're letting the jelly dry completely before going in with another layer, otherwise you will spread your work and it will be devastating. So learn from my mistakes. I didn't do it here, but I do it later. I included it just so you could see. So here is my squishy sheer blonde tortoiseshell look. Maybe a little cow printy, but you know what? Cows are really cute, so who cares? And I just wanted to show it off in different lighting so you could see how it looks. I think it looks kind of cool. So next up, we're going to do the classic tortoiseshell look. And this set has mustard jelly, rust jelly, and mahogany jelly. And I am going to start with a coat of mustard jelly on my nails. This has a beautiful formula. All of these returning jellies are available individually as well as in nail art sets. And they have fantastic formulas, especially with the wide brush. Next up, we are going to add random oblong and round blobs of rushed jelly. So this doesn't look overly different from what I did with the Blonde Tortoiseshell kit. And after you apply these blobs, once again, I will just remind you to let them dry fully. Honestly, it's good to probably wait 10 minutes just to be safe, especially if you go in a little thicker with the jelly. Now we're going to take mahogany jelly and apply it over and around the rust blobs that we just applied. And this is when you start getting a little more depth to your manicure. And there are tons of different tutorials out there on how to do tortoiseshell nails, but this is my interpretation, and I refuse to get out any nail art tools, which I think is the point of the Cirque nail art kits, is that you can just do it out of the bottle, which is very appealing to someone like me who has no patience for nail art. So I let the last set of blobs dry, and now I'm going back in with some more mahogany just to deepen and intensify where I just applied the other little blobs. I'm using the word blob a lot, but that's my very descriptive wording. And again, you want to be random. The goal is to create lots of layers and depth. And now I am going to apply a coat of mustard jelly again. And this is to sort of sandwich everything in that you've done. You want to make sure that all of your blobs are dry before you apply the mustard jelly, but hopefully you can see it coming together now. At least this is the point where I was like, okay, good, I did this right. It's looking like a tortoise shell. And now I went in with mahogany jelly again to add a tiny bit more depth in and around the areas where I already had some blobs. You basically just keep going, or you stop whenever you feel like you're happy with it. So you can keep going, but this is where I sort of ended things. So that's it using the tortoiseshell set, but optionally I thought that adding NSFW jelly to deepen the blobs at their edges created an even more accurate tortoiseshell look. So the NSFW doesn't come in the tortoiseshell set, but if you have it, I just thought this was a really effective way of making it look even more tortoise-shelly. And then this was the point at which I applied my top coat. And it does kind of get thick, so you might need 2 layers of top coat to smooth everything out, or you won't, but I recommend using enough to get a smooth gel-like finish because you really want a glossy look with this kind of manicure. And here it is. I think it looks so pretty and elegant. I'm very proud of what I did. The other option is if you have the blonde tortoiseshell mani, you could just add mustard jelly over it, and I actually really like how that turned out. It's a very easy way to get a tortoiseshell look with only 3 polishes if you want to go in that direction. So 2 ways to do it, and here you can see my full hand with the tortoiseshell. I mean, that looks pretty good. I've seen worse, and I love how glossy these jellies are. It definitely almost looks like a gel manicure, and I will probably never wear gel in my lifetime because it's too much work. So this is the last little experiment that I did, and this one was using, what did I use? I used base coat, and then I went in with NSFW jelly. I applied blobs of that. Was very sparing with it, but you want to be random. Try to get rough edges on your blobs so that it looks not too perfect. You don't want just circles, and you want those blobs to dry. And you're going to see where I made a fatal error. So then I went in with organza, but my blobs were not dry, as you're going to see. And very sadly, I spread all of my blob down. So then I went in again with NSFW jelly to deepen up the blobs. And you also want to let organza dry because I didn't, and you can kind of see how it's creating this like pooling effect, which isn't the worst, but if you don't let it dry, things are going to start mixing together, which isn't ideal. So so you should be letting that dry fully. And then I went in with mahogany. I'm just kind of mixing all of the returning jellies together with this manicure. And this is just a beautiful brown. I sort of went in random spots in between, started adding it around the edges. You kind of just have to follow your heart with these manicures and just hope it turns out okay. Try not to overthink it, and that's usually where things go wrong for me. And then I went in again with organza. But, surprise, surprise, once again, I didn't let my blobs fully dry and I smeared it all, which maybe looks cool, but it wasn't what I was going for. So, let your coats dry. This is the lesson for you. And then I went in again with NSFW. And I just deepened up the areas that I smudged. Just trying to build as much dimension and depth as possible. So you don't have to go over every blob every time. If you want to provide different levels of depth, that's a good way to do it. Just go over some each time. And then I went in again with mahogany and just random spots to sort of intensify the brown. And honestly, I don't really know what this nail look is. I don't think it's tortoiseshell, but I thought it looked really cool regardless. So that's it with top coat. Just another idea of how you can use some of these returning jellies. And here we have the Shibori Nail Art set. So the first step for this one is smushing the cobalt jelly over your nail. I just have base coat on. You kind of want to be not aggressive with it, but just random with it, sort of smush it down with the brush bristles. Let that dry and then go in with indigo in other spots, kind of randomly mixing it together. It's supposed to be sort of like a tie-dye effect. So you let that dry, and then I went back in with cobalt jelly again, and you kind of want to add texture to it. So be kind of aggressive with the brush. I went down on my nail at, I guess, 90 degrees, and so you want to mix things up and mess it up a bit. And then I applied a layer of Morning Tide all over the nail. So you can start seeing that sort of random tie-dye look so far, but we're not done quite yet. I also love how beautiful these blues are. They're very inky and dreamy. So you go back in with cobalt jelly once again, and then smush, smush, smush. That's what I'm going to call it. You want to just sort of mess it up, add texture like you can see here. You might get a little bit on your skin. You'll have to use nail polish remover to clean it up, or you can use nail tape, or liquid latex, I guess, is the other option, but I can't be bothered with that stuff. So this is kind of where I basically wrapped things up, but you can always touch up if you need to, and you finish with a final layer of Morning Tide. I do love blues, and I just love the way this looks. It's so pretty, it's a really unique effect, and it's super easy to achieve. So now it's basically a matter of top coating to get a really beautiful, glossy, shiny finish, which is what I love so much about these Cirque jellies. They have a beautiful, glossy, shiny, almost gel-like effect to them. And I just really love that because, like I said, I don't like gel manicures, can't be bothered with them, but I love the shine. And so this is a great way to get that effect without the commitment of a gel manicure. So here it is with the top coat. And I think it just looks so pretty and dreamy. I was really happy with this effect. It's probably the easiest out of all the nail art sets, and I think it's my favorite effect. So it would actually be really fun to use this technique, but with the other colors, and do like a brown version. Well, I obviously love that collection, and it pleasantly surprised me. I don't know why I thought I wouldn't like them, but when I put them on my nails and I saw all the polishes together, everything just made sense. Now, in terms of my favorite polishes, I absolutely love blue velvet, especially when you do the velvet magnetic effect. It is absolutely gorgeous. And being a hollow and topper girl, I love Twinkle Tweed. I just think that those little bar shred glitters are amazing, and I love that Cirque used them because they're super cool. And I obviously had a ton of fun with those nail art sets. I'm just curious what everybody thinks about the nail art sets coming back and the collection itself. Let me know in the comments what you think. Again, use my code Caitlin Swatches if you want to pick up the collection on the Cirque Colors website or the jellies. And I guess that's it for me. Have a great day, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye.